Cursed by the old gods in Bethany, we are four immortals taking on the impossible task of reviewing all the 1001 pieces of pop culture so we can one day die. This is episode 122.
Yay!
Woohoo!
Cool.
That's good.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Not my real dad.
What?
What?
Yeah, episode 122. We've done it quite a bit, and now we're going to keep doing it. By the way, I'm Austin.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Lee.
I'm Pedro.
And every week we review the 1001 movies, albums, food, songs, and TV shows you must consume before you die. Every week, one of these two dummies gives us a supposedly random number. And this week, you guys formulated 976, which according to all of these things are the following, things. Synonyms for chumps. The movie is The Social Network.
The album is In Rainbows by Radiohead.
The food is lemon curd.
The song is My Moon, My Man by Feist.
And the TV show is Fargo. Before we start the movie, I have an insanely quick update. I finished another show we covered many episodes ago. I forget what number it was. The Kingdom, the Lars von Trier hospital thing. At the time, I had watched season 1 and a little bit of season 2. I've now finished season 2, and it was a hot mess. Whereas I enjoyed season 1 for being a crazy Twin Peaks meets Dogma 95 creepy thing. Season 2 had the same problem as what was it called? The Remnants? What was the French show we loved?
The Returned.
The Returned. Exact same problem where both first seasons had like real people kind of dealing with like supernatural things in the background, but they still kind of felt like real people. And then season 2 was just like, nope, no more humanity. We have to discuss the insane mythology all the time, and there's no like actual emotions anymore.
That sucks.
It was that for an incomprehensible plot and Lars von Trier being a crazy person. So I'm going to mark my rating down to 3.5 of quite a good first season and a complete mess of second season.
Was that the show where we saw like the first episode and it's just really like poorly shot, like the lighting is terrible
Yeah.
and you can't follow anything?
Yeah.
All right.
Because it's his style of Dogma. Like he had a mandate where people like all natural lighting, like all these kind of things to make a more organic movie. Remember when we saw that film, The Celebration, back in Carmel, where it's like family had like rich family, all this incest.
Oh God, the Danish movie.
That was part of the Dogma thing, right? They followed those
Gotcha.
rules of natural lighting.
Yeah.
It's more things on the list. But anywho, The Kingdom, whatever episode that was, 3.5. The fact that it took me almost, I think, like a year to finish the last 3 episodes of that show
Wow.
says a lot about season 2.
Yeah.
They were over hour episodes, but whatever. Speaking of wasting your time online, The Social Network.
Don't care if it hurts. I wanna have control. I want a perfect body. I want a perfect soul. I want you to notice when I'm not around. You're so very special.
I need to do something substantial in order to get the attention of the clubs.
Why?
Because they're exclusive and fun, and they lead to a better life.
I'm not free.
People want to go on the internet and check out their friends, so why not build a website that offers that friends, pictures, profiles?
I'm talking about taking the entire social experience of college and putting it online.
Site got 2,200 hits within 2 hours.
22,000.
This idea is potentially worth millions of dollars.
Millions! He stole our website.
They're saying we stole the Facebook.
I know what it says.
So did we?
$1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool? $1 billion.
You're going to get left behind. It's moving faster than any of us ever imagined
Get
it
left
would.
behind.
Let's sue him in federal court.
I can't wait to stand over your shoulder and watch you write us a check.
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
Is there anything that you need to tell me?
Your actions could have permanently destroyed everything I've been working on.
We have been working on.
Did you like being a joke? Do you want to go back to that?
Mark! This is our time.
You're being accused of intentionally breaching security, violating copyrights, violating individual privacy.
Your best friend is suing you for $600 million.
As for the charges, I believe I deserve some recognition from this board.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
I don't understand.
Which part?
The Social Network is a film made by David Fincher and written by Aaron Sorkin, barely based off the novel The Accidental Billionaires.
Which is in turn barely based off any form of truth about what happened.
Yeah, that's not the most accurate book, or the most entertaining to read. But this is the quasi-true story of the rise of Mark Zuckerberg and the rise of Facebook, originally the Facebook. It shows him as an asshole in Harvard and how he betrays anyone who's ever close to him, creates a really lonely existence for himself, and becomes a billionaire in the process. It is a movie that was up for a number of Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Actor. It was Aaron Sorkin's kind of big comeback after having a terrible show called Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that show was hot garbage. And this is a movie I've seen many times. I've been annoyingly compared to the main character. And
you're nothing like the main character. But
I appreciate this on the air.
You do talk a little bit. Like, his performance is... I mean, I actually think that Jesse Eisenberg is a really, really cool thing with how he talks. But the way that he clips words, and the words he decides to clip, it's very you, honey, I'm sorry.
When this came out, I had at least 20 people tell me this. And this concerned me, because I go, he's like the villain, right? And they go, but he talks just like you.
Austin told me this before the movie, and I was like, oh yeah, it sounds ridiculous. And literally, Jesse Eisenberg says the first sentence, and I'm like, holy shit!
So to embrace this, and I'm sure this comes through on the podcast, I am wearing a hoodie.
I mean, I've known you for the better part of, 15 years, something like that?
Plus hundreds.
I don't actually see it that much.
I appreciate that, Pedro.
Yeah.
All right.
You just talk fast.
Yeah, I talk fast. And dismissively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anywho. This is not a good way to start the conversation, but Pedro, this is your first time watching it.
Yes.
And I gave you the challenge. Before watching, I sent you a photo of a still from the movie.
Me. Yeah, I don't know. Is it the primer?
No, listen. So there is one of the smaller characters in the movie is one of Zuckerberg's roommates who is working with him on Facebook, and you see him doing lots of coding challenges. We'll put the photo up on Twitter and such. Do you recognize that actor who played his roommate?
I recognize him. I don't know where.
It's from a film you've seen maybe 400 times.
Really?
Yes.
He is the kid in Jurassic Park.
No!
What?
Isn't that great?
Oh, shit!
Yep.
That's fantastic.
What, Tim, right? Timmy?
Yep.
That was Timmy?
Yep.
He's really good, apparently, at
Oh
being
my god!
friends with hackers.
Yes.
I'm in.
Wow.
There you go. Terrible way to start this
Oh, that makes
discussion,
me so
but I wanted
happy.
to get this on air of Pedro realizing that's him.
Timmy.
So, Pedro, aside from the connection to Jurassic Park, what do you think of the film?
It's alright. So I'm not a huge user of Facebook or social media, that sort of thing. So I was never really interested in watching this movie. I don't care about Facebook, I don't want to watch a movie about Facebook. Also, I'm not a huge fan of Zuckerberg because it just doesn't rub me the right way.
Which I said on the air last week. This movie might be for you then.
Yeah, and it kind of was. It was all right. It was really interesting to see the creation and stuff. I don't know how accurate it is.
Not.
Okay, well then.
that's not true.
Personality-wise,
yeah, honestly,
lawsuit and major players-wise, yes.
Yeah, no, that's actually completely right. The story beats are actually almost exactly right. The commentary, actually I think rather astute commentary that the movie is making about tech bros and lots of problems with Mark Zuckerberg's personality and motivations are based on 100% false predicates.
Because even so it shows him acting like an asshole and all this is happening. But also, it tries to show, human points of his. He's he actually defended you against the chicken thing, which I thought was hilarious. Stuff like that. So, I don't think the movie, had a mission to make him a bad dude or even a good dude. But it was just weird because I don't think it was very successful in, having this openness, but I could feel it trying. And also, we see all this movie, all this setup about the lawsuit, what's going to happen with Eduardo, that sort of thing. But they spent all of 2 minutes explaining the part that actually got all of this started, which was him being basically forced out, or his share of the company being turned to nothing. I wanted to know more about that. What did he sign that let that happen? Why did they do this? All that sort of thing. And they didn't really explain it. They kind of, insinuated, it's because he's not in touch with the company, or he's trying to, finish his degree and do stuff like that. Yeah, he's allowed to take a goddamn internship in New York.
Well, the film does a number of things. Oh, sorry, we're going to spoil the whole movie.
Facebook's a thing,
Facebook's
guys.
a thing.
Facebook's a really big deal.
Well, there's a bookend about how two different women label Mark Zuckerberg. Rudy Mueller calls him an asshole, and Rashida Jones says, "You're not an asshole, you just try really hard to be one." And the word that I kind of keep coming up with when I watch and watch this film is pathetic.
Yeah, he is really pathetic.
He's a very pathetic, often mean person. And from, because this isn't the real Zuckerberg and Eduardo, but from the film's point of view, it's just a constant jealousy of... according to the film, the creation of Facebook is based upon the idea that Zuckerberg is not invited to any of the parties and has no actual social connections.
What the hell is this exclusive club thing?
All right, so I'm going to put on a hat that I very rarely put on because I try to avoid it.
It's not exactly red. What is this? A bit of a crimson hat?
It's a lot of my family went to Harvard, and that's kind of a thing that's big in my family thing. In particular, my brother graduated from Harvard in 2007, and therefore Mark Zuckerberg was a year ahead of him. So he actually knows, I have this weird thing where Mean Girls was kind of based on my high school, so when I watch Mean Girls, I'm like, well, that's weird, because I kind of know that person. This is his movie for that. And so, yeah, Harvard is a shitty, weird place in a lot of ways. And the elitism and classism shittiness that is depicted in this movie is very true. Instead of frats, Harvard has these things called finals clubs, which are quasi-secret societies. They're not people will know their for some of them you know their names, but not where the houses are. The pork, which is one of them that they bring them into, is where non-members aren't allowed to go past the bike room. That's very much the case. And for all of them, you have to get tapped, meaning that you basically have to be invited in a sort of quasi-secret weird way where you get a note in your under your door in your mailbox that invites you to it, and it requires multiple people to invite you. So that's it's elitism at its purest and most gross and destructive. It's just... And so I think it's interesting because so is Facebook, right? When Facebook starts, it does start as Harvard only. It then expands to Harvard and the Ivies plus Stanford. And then when it finally expands to high school, and this is just my favorite thing because it gets to the core of how much they wanted to keep this as this elitist little shitty in-club was they invited only private high schools, a select number of private high schools, many of which are Ivy League feeders, and you had to have someone in a college kid invite you to it. So not only did you have to go to one of those schools, but you also had to already know somebody who was at one of those colleges. And it was really made for people to invite their little siblings, which means some people at Harvard could invite their little siblings, but only if you were the kind of person who'd come from one of those schools. And there's something that's sort of that's the world that he forces himself to be a part of, right? He's not a Winklevoss. He's not a crew guy. It's not like Mark Zuckerberg is from, hard scrabble coal mining Scranton, PA or anything. He's a kid from White Plains, New York. He's not, he's very much middle class and uninteresting. Yeah.
But it's just curious that the Facebook is supposed to be because they said, he can't get into these clubs, he's going to make his own for these parties and such. But they both have the exclusivity and the gatekeeping elements to it while also just being completely like empty at its core.
Oh yeah.
Because like when you see the tradition of like, you know, they're coding to kind of get to the party they're not going to go to, even those parties that are shot like a car commercial are so vapid because they basically tell everyone like, you're here because you've been allowed to be here because being here means this is like important and good. It is. It's the whole thing of like essentially Instagramming your party to say you're at the party, but no one's actually having a good time at the party. It's just everyone's supposed to be doing what they think they should be doing at the car commercial of a party.
But that's how like life works in the end, isn't it? Like
but social
you're
media
part of a group to
amplifies it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like that's sort of what, and I think what I like about this movie is that it was really made before Facebook became what it is now, like right on the edge of it. But like
it was perfect timing almost.
Yeah, I mean, like
it's before Gamergate, it's
like
before.
and it's before. I mean, it's when Facebook is still pretty much the only game in town before Twitter gets really, really big. You know, when it's just this thing that everybody uses where you still poke people and and you still have to use is before all of your statuses. You know,
MySpace had just died.
You know, it hasn't yet, say, derailed the presidential election, or you know, and Mark Zuckerberg is at the time this movie is made, sort of a generic Silicon Valley exec. And this is sort of an interesting story about how that person got there. I think the real story of Mark Zuckerberg is the one that informs who he is now, which is an incredibly powerful person with a huge amount of influence over people's lives and politics.
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw on Facebook he just likes to be with the common man. I see him like pouring soup at soup kitchens with a giant PR crew.
So it's interesting because I will say, I know again, and like because some of these people are people that I'm like 1 degree separated from. The thing about Mark Zuckerberg in this movie that is absolutely not true is that Mark Zuckerberg actually has very pleasant, normal relationships with women, and in fact has been dating his current wife since they were freshmen at Harvard. His current wife is a total badass, first generation.
Was she one of the girls?
Like, no, Priscilla's not in the movie.
Okay.
She's in she's really like a very, very cool woman, first generation college refugee from Vietnam.
Oh shit.
I mean, like incredibly smart, and now basically graduated from Harvard, unlike her dropout boyfriend.
Oh no, you got a degree.
In the end, yeah, and now runs all of Facebook's charitable arms, which are extensive. And Mark Zuckerberg similarly not a dick in that way, in any like particularly meaningful way.
She's a normal person.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, like he has many vices. That vice is probably not high on the list of vices.
So last week when we were announcing this thing, Pedro announced that he doesn't care about Facebook, and Lee announced he doesn't care about Mark Zuckerberg. After watching this film, Lee, because I hinted that the film is also not a big Mark Zuckerberg fan, were you able to enjoy this kind of ethical dissection of him, or did the culture still bring you down?
First off, I want to comment about the chicken thing.
So wait, explain what this is in the movie.
It's like my favorite thing.
So, in the movie, Andrew Garfield's character is accused of animal abuse because he has to take care of a chicken and feeds the chicken some fried chicken. And animal rights groups get upset about this. Now, chickens are dumb. They are really, really, really dumb.
They're real dumb.
They are so dumb that they will eat their own eggs if given the opportunity.
Yeah.
They then develop a taste for this, and they will become addicted to eating their own eggs. So, it's not so much a big, huge animal abuse thing, more of a bunch of rich kids having a misunderstanding as to animal nature.
In terms of cinematic chickens, the accuracy is not Chicken Run, but more of Moana.
Well, so what I actually love about that is that, like, so much of this movie is just about college is stupid and petty and crappy. And when and these guys are suddenly given, like, huge adult levels of money and power that they start throwing around the exact same way that they throw around everything else in college, which is, like, idiot 20-year-olds.
One of the best scenes in the movie for me is when the Winklevi are talking to the the president or the dean, one of the deans of
Larry
the college.
Summers, the president of Harvard.
And like they've memorized
Was
all
that
these.
actually Larry Summers?
No, it is an actor though who looks a lot like him.
They're memorizing parts of the student handbook. His response is, "I don't give a shit." Like there are rules that apply and rules that you are using for your gain.
It's like,
and
how did you get this meeting? Oh, it's because your dad knows a guy who knows a guy. That is wrong.
Yeah, that is a very fun smackdown of just saying like this. You're saying someone stole from you, and that goes across the Harvard against like the Harvard spirit. This goes against the Harvard spirit. The fact that you are here and trying to do this, get out of my office.
Well, back to Leeds.
Anyway,
so
sorry.
You got the chicken thing. Let's talk about the rest of the film.
So I'm also a firm believer that there shouldn't be millionaires or fucking billionaires for all there are children in Flint, Michigan who can't drink tap water or take a bath in their own bath water without using bottled water. So I went into this movie already not liking the subject. I also am not a fan of David Fincher. I'm not a fan of Jesse Eisenberg, and I'm not a fan of Aaron Sorkin. So this was like 2 hours of fucking torture for me. The only way that this movie could have been worse is if Tom Waits did the fucking music.
You're setting me up now, but
the soundtrack is actually really good.
No, the soundtrack is great because Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross know what the hell they're doing.
Nope.
The rest of this movie annoyed the piss out of me.
What was it that kind of their angle that annoyed you? Because I actually typically don't like David Fincher either, but when he gets a good script, I think he's somehow accidentally a good director.
Yeah, I'll give it to David Fincher. The directing was fine. I didn't have any issues with the directing. As per usual, you could tell it was an Aaron Sorkin script because everybody sounds the exact same, and all of the women are very bland and non-existent.
Yeah, all the women are bland and or insane. Like,
yeah,
it's not good on women. The movie, no, not good. No.
At all. And, I understand that Facebook has a problematic beginning and continuation, but they could have still done better for the representation for the rest of the movie.
Well, and the whole thing that bugs me, that is why I brought this up, is that, it is interesting that Aaron Sorkin completely changed the one part of Mark Zuckerberg's story that has a strong independent woman involved in it. That, his girlfriend was, a major part of, stabilizing force in his life and part of the story and the process the entire way through, but no,
not there at all.
I think there's reasons that is a smart thing to do for the script that have nothing to do with what actually happened, but it's notable.
Do you think they wanted to protect her at all?
Go ahead, Lee.
It's also a little perturbing that the only, you briefly mentioned it earlier, Sarah, where the only two women in the entire movie are the only two people who are like, no, you're a fucking asshole. That, why couldn't we have had, I don't know, the Andrew Garfield's character, the character who most deserves to call him an asshole.
He does, doesn't he? In one of the depositions?
He says lots of mean things, but within their broken relationship, but something about kind of the women in this movie, yes, for kind of the tightness of his themes, I think it does make sense not to have his soon-to-be wife, just because, a part of the movie that really kind of resonated with me this time was to watch the cruel beginnings of Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
And, when he's calling Rooney Mara a bitch on the internet, comparing her to farm animals, and then spends all night hacking into colleges' Facebooks to rank women. This just felt like such, this is the toxic behavior that he is going to also unleash on the world by giving toxic people a platform to do this, right? This is pre-Gamergate awfulness.
What's Gamergate?
Oh
boy.
God.
Oh boy. That's another podcast.
After this, I'll get.
Toxic people on the internet doing toxic things. Targeting women.
And ruining lives. Yeah. It's a terrible thing. I'll explain to you later, because that'll take up another hour, and we'll get exhausted and have gray hairs by the end. But just to kind of see that, and also to watch that behavior, I think very well depicted in the movie as bad and cruel behavior, and then to watch Mark Zuckerberg succeed from that, I think continues to damn him as this Because, I mean, this was going for, like, a Shakespearean feel to it in the sense that it's a Shakespearean tragedy.
Right.
And tragedies within Shakespeare aren't always, bad things happen to good people. It's also bad things happen to bad people. As we did Samurai Macbeth 20 episodes ago or so. Like, it's you're watching someone who is interesting, much like a Tony Soprano or Don Draper, who you can watch and you can be compelled by, but you're not rooting for. And I enjoyed this film looking at his pathetic qualities, especially in the later half of the film where he becomes so enamored by Sean Parker, played by Justin Timberlake, because...
I think Justin Timberlake is the best thing about this movie. I think his performance is fabulous, and every scene he is in is excellent.
He is the representation of just paranoid bullshit. And it's so interesting because there's an image of Mark Zuckerberg that Mark Zuckerberg wants to be. And it was a bit of Eduardo because Eduardo was able to be social and talk to women and he dresses well and he gets invited to the club, he's not invited, and he succeeds. But he also resents him for that. And because he doesn't respect him as an intellectual. Because Mark Zuckerberg only looks at those who are as smart as he is to be worth considering. And that's ultimately why, according to this film, he dismisses Eduardo. Whereas Sean Parker is someone that he respects because of what he was able to build and the punk attitude he's able to have. Also, they look almost identical throughout certain parts of the movie, which is a very specific thing they were doing. And that ultimately breaks apart, and the movie ends with him just so incredibly alone and with nothing, except for $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, that's nothing except $1 billion in Facebook, which is going to turn out, as we all know, to be just plenty in terms of, I don't know. I like the central contrast I think is so great in this movie is the device that they have, which is just right there in front of them, of the two lawsuits. One of which is Shakespearean and like personal and painful, of just having written out his friend and business partner essentially out of spite. I mean, just like there's not a good reason.
The fake reason is he froze the accounts, and that could put the whole thing in jeopardy.
Yeah, but
you can't trust him anymore. But no,
that's bullshit. And he knows it's bullshit. And then the Winklevoss lawsuit, which is bullshit, classist. We thought of we're supposed to always win, and this little hotshot is like getting to succeed when we've had everything handed to us, and their butthurt, which is Armie Hammer's performance is...
He plays both of the twins.
It's so good. Because,
I thought they were actual twins.
No, it's just it's very well done. It's CGI
Digital.
Partially, yeah. But the thing I love about this movie in terms of its subject is that, that's really what Harvard looks like, and that's what crew guys who went to fancy private schools look like and talk like.
I do have one problem with Armie Hammer as the Winklevoss twins, though. They couldn't find anywhere in the world 2 6'5" blonde twins that could kind of act.
No.
Really?
How many identical twin acting pairs are there? There are none, as far as I
There's
know.
the whole of Scandinavia to choose from.
I think part of the reason of doing that, one, Armie Hammer, rather good actor, and this was his big breakout.
Also,
thing.
the Winklevosses, not blonde.
But that's also, David Fincher really loves using technology and advancing technology. I think it's the only reason why he made Benjamin Button, was to do that. He clearly didn't give a fuck about that story.
Movie.
So I think he gets very intrigued about advancing technology in a kind of James Cameron way, but in a very quiet way. So, I mean, the idea to do that kind of face technology is still incredibly seamless, I think, in this movie.
It's done very, very well, but, didn't they do that in the 60s with Parent Trap? I'm just saying.
No, the Parent Trap, in the 60s Parent Trap, those are actual twins. The Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap.
No, it's not. It's one person.
There's only one Haley Mills.
Are you sure? I thought
But
twins.
That's an old-fashioned, basically,
They're never in the same scene together?
No, they are, but you can't cross the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's two... So it's different things kind of going on. This actually had two people on set. there was basically a physical guy very similar to him, and he would do the scene twice still, but it would be putting the face on the other guy in the room. Mm-hmm. Two performances to do. It's weird, but again, it's more Fincher being Fincher. But luckily for me, Fincher being Fincher didn't actually distract from the quality of this film, because we mentioned Aaron Sorkin. We've done a bonus episode about him with A Few Good Men. One of Sarah's favorite films.
Oh, I shouldn't like Aaron Sorkin as much as I do, but I love him so much.
He is someone that I really enjoy for the most part, but I think much like Stephen Moffat, his flaws can be very neon and exhausting. It's not easy to be a fan of either one of them.
Nope.
But to me, this is Aaron Sorkin's best script. I think it's better than Two Cathedrals from The West Wing. I would
agree with that, actually. I think this is his best script.
And part of it is not only just like the super sharp dialogue, the super sharp indictment of Mark Zuckerberg, but the structure of this movie is just so genius about having these two lawsuits and have the editing be this swift, because someone was discovered this, really not discovered it but said it for me. Essentially, if this is a 3-act structure, the third act is during the rest of the film. It's also amazing that the film ends so quickly, because once Eduardo gets pushed out and once Sean Parker gets pushed out, the movie has like 2 minutes left in it, because everything that happens of the aftermath of these decisions were already in the whole film, interspersed as it was happening linearly. And that makes it such a fast look at all, but also never makes you think, because if you just watched it in order, Mark Zuckerberg is a dick, but he's built something cool and I respect him for it. Every time he does anything, it cuts to everyone being angry at him and him being awful in those rooms. It keeps undercutting any of his successes with just awful behavior.
Right.
I don't know. For me, the dialogue just sounded like an episode of Big Bang Theory without the laugh track.
Oh, no. An episode of West Wing, yes. Everything Aaron Sorkin writes sounds exactly the same. But I think he does. I think that there is a real... The way that he writes... the way that he frames Zuckerberg in this script is so interesting. I mean, in that he, that feeling about him, one of the very first lines he says, I think, to the Winklevosses is, "We all know why we're here." I didn't steal Facebook. If you would invent, if you have made up Facebook, if you were going to invent Facebook, you would have invented Facebook. And there's an element of that the guy is, for all of his insecurities, knows that he's made something successful and will defend it against all comers. That it's just no, this is my thing, and I've made it, and it's good, and I don't need anyone who's going to tell me anything other than that. And it's very real in that I like that he doesn't get a moral comeuppance exactly. I mean, you don't end with Mark Zuckerberg sitting in a office all alone and because he doesn't have any friends and having his more importantly, if this were a story that was written rather than a story that's based on something that happened, in the end, the fact that he didn't have any friends and threw everybody under the bus as he climbed the ladder would mean that he doesn't do well. That there's and there isn't that kind of comeuppance. He's
right. It's just it's this incredibly lonely shot as he's just refreshing his ex's Facebook page.
Yeah.
While a perfect Beatles song plays.
Oh,
kind of seemed like a psychopath. He had
sure.
no feelings.
Yeah.
Just a little machine walking around doing his thing.
Well, and in his way, I think the portrait that they paint of this version of Mark Zuckerberg is very much that the guys we would now refer to as those scary, sexist programmer, Facebook bros, the sort of the Silicon Valley version of insecure man-children who hate women, and all of the insecurity and crap that comes along with it, which at the time this movie came out, I think was much less of a type that at least I even thought about. Now I'm oh, it's one of you. I know you. But I think it's a very well-drawn character. And I think Eduardo is a really well-drawn character.
Well, and the idea of looking at Sorkin's kind of larger canon, when Sorkin does a villain, his villains aren't like... They're no Moriarty, right?
Right.
The way that Sorkin looks at villains is people who are stupid. Mm-hmm. And that is the elitist element of Sorkin as well. That, like, anyone who defies the team of Sportsnight or the West Wing is because they are idiots and not understanding their brilliance.
Right.
This is a villain by Sorkin where he is the smartest guy in the room. And that's the kind of thing that he's never really done before.
It's true, actually.
And there's, I think, because of that, a higher level of cruelty than anyone he's ever written before. And...
He's not actually a villain.
He's not a hero.
Target of a lot of things. Yeah, he's not a hero either. I don't know.
He's pathetic. I mean, I think, and you said it at the beginning, right? He's just a guy who made a thing when he was really young and kind of stupid. Yeah. You know, like that's all he is. And his crimes ultimately are the crimes of a college student with the resources of a billionaire. Mm-hmm. I mean, right? Like it's. And yeah, I mean, I that's what I got out of it this time. I think when I originally watched the movie, I was in college, and I think I didn't see it as much that way of like things like chicken. I mean, that's the kind of shit like that kind of shit happens in college all the time, right? Like, I mean, all of us have some insane story about something we did in college that, like, if we look back with sober adult eyes, we're like, ooh. That was a choice that was...
Did he have to feed the chicken immediately? He couldn't, like, wait a few minutes till he gets back to his room? Like...
But I just, but again, it's not a big deal.
But also, only in college are you being asked to take care of a live chicken. Like, this is just not a... Mm-hmm. And so the juxtaposition of that
I think you just went to the wrong high school, that's all I think.
I don't know. It's a great movie. I love this movie.
All right, I think it's time for Hinges. I do think this is one of the best films of the decade. I'm going to give this a 4.8.
I will give it a 4.6. I also think it's one of the best films of the decade. It would have been even better if Sorkin hadn't done his Sorkin thing about women when there wasn't any need to.
I don't know. I think I need to watch it again. Probably deserves it, but it's fine. 4.2.
Be true. No wrong answers.
I know. I liked it and I didn't. Something's still missing or off, or maybe it's just because it's about Facebook and Zuckerberg.
Facebook is
so you sort of fundamentally don't give a shit?
Yeah.
I think this movie needs a very, very serious part 2 in about 10 years.
I agree. Austin and I were talking about that because...
Team them all back up again. I want to see Zuckerberg in the Cambridge Analytica.
Well, no, but I mean, look, like, I looked up some of these guys, right? The only one of them who is not currently embroiled in some... So Mark Zuckerberg is Mark Zuckerberg, and the Winklevosses own 1% of the world's Bitcoin. Like, they're cryptocurrency moguls. Because of course they are, right? Like...
Started a capital management group. Eduardo renounced his citizenship.
Yeah, Eduardo renounced his citizenship and just has a ton of money and invests in shit. Yeah.
Wait, Leah, need your Hinge rating.
Oh, I'm giving it a 2.
Okay, that is the wrong answer. I'm kidding. It's totally fine. So that is The Social Network. It is available lots of places. It's a popular film. This one's easier to find than, like, A Question of Silence.
Yeah. That movie is bad.
I like that movie better. I think it was more important.
That movie is... You should watch that movie. That movie's cool. Anyway.
That is a double feature of ways to depict men and women.
For real.
So, in The Social Network, it kind of first got people's attention thanks to its incredible teaser trailer, which had the movie juxtaposed with a cover of Radiohead's Creep. Lee, what do we hear this week?
This week we listened to In Rainbows by Radiohead.
Come on.
album that Creep is on, but it did come out in 2007, about the same time Social Network did, and it's the 7th studio album of Radiohead. Besides being super interesting musically, we're going to talk about the release of it, because it was the very, very first major artist pay what you want release.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It was a huge deal.
Because I didn't know who Radiohead was then. Still barely do now, so I'm looking forward to Lee's explanation of who they are.
So, yeah, it was a big deal. There is still a very large divide over the opinion of this. It was incredibly financially successful for Radiohead. It made more money than any of their other digital downloads combined. And overall, the album was still incredibly financially successful. The music industry is upset about this because it's like, hey, wait a second. What are you doing? Why? We're supposed to be in there. We're supposed to be releasing this. And then there's other artists who think it's not fair to indie artists who think that they won't get any money because their fans are just expecting music for free. So it's a very interesting discussion I could very easily get into.
Which also is a bit of an evolution of the Social Network, right? Sean Parker, we forgot to mention, created Napster.
Yeah.
And has that great moment where he says, he brought down the music industry.
They're like, no, you didn't.
He goes, you want to buy a Tower Records?
I mean, yeah, like, it's incredibly true. He may have come out of that on the wrong end of the deal, but he did at least shake up the music industry.
Now, I'm kind of curious, I want to talk a little bit more about what you're saying about kind of releasing it for free, because Jonathan Coulton has always been one that Bird's an advocate of, like, just put it out there.
So Jonathan Coulton, what he does is a little bit different, and I'm sure Sarah can explain it more and better than I can. And Jonathan Coulton releases things under fair use, whereas Radiohead did not.
Yeah, this was just, you can have our album, it is ours. Like, we're not just, like, giving, but, like, here's the place where you put in how much money you want to pay for it. And I remember thinking it was crazy at the time, and I bought it, I think, for $5, which is what a lot of people did. But then you had enough people who bought it for, $20 or even more, and enough people who bought it at all rather than illegally downloading it that it made money.
But is it any good?
Yeah.
Oh. So I remember this when this album came out, and I remember all of my music friends being really into it, and I even think I downloaded it for $0 because I'm cheap and I was in college. But I didn't remember any of the songs off of it, but I do distinctly remember making fun of 15 Step.
Which is because there's 10 songs in this album. I listened to this twice, and that is that one stands out the most. It is the most different sound. Why did you make fun of it so much?
Oh, just because I don't like Tom York's vocals. Like, I love the musicality of Radiohead. I think what they do is really interesting, and they do a lot of cool stuff, and without it ever just sounding just like pure noise, it always has some like other underlying melody to it, feels like, or at least some cohesion to it. 15 Step is just a goofy song, and it's easy to make fun of easy to make fun of the vocals in that one.
I do really like it though.
It's so it's
so
weirdly
catchy.
Good. Yeah.
So this was an album because I'm not super familiar with Radiohead. I know like a bunch of their most famous songs, but to hear this album, especially twice, it has such a remarkable sound to it. It creates such a specific mood that few albums really know how to like accomplish for all their tracks. And yet, almost I felt like I was in the world of Pedro because the songs were so hard to focus on their lyrics.
Yeah. So that's kind of Radiohead in a nutshell. There are lyrics there, but you don't really know what they are. And Tom York, being the weirdo that he is, described this album as his versions of seduction songs. So take that as you will.
Okay, Tom York. Okay.
Yep. So I don't know about you, but I wasn't really seduced after.
His voice is a weird voice.
It's unique. I'll give it to him. It's unique.
I was watching videos on YouTube which shows him playing it, and he's shaking his hair, and yeah, it's amusing.
He's a weird dude.
Yeah, I like this album. I am not a big Radiohead person. I used to pretend to like it a lot because I thought I was supposed to, because it was like I thought I was supposed to. And when Radiohead is good, they are amazing. When they are not good, when they are like, so I think their hits are really, really good, but their songs tend to blend together when they are not in some way like transcendently good. And none of my favorite Radiohead songs are on this album.
I feel like Radiohead is one of those bands that I hate how much I enjoy them. Like, I never go out of my way to listen to them, but whenever there's a Radiohead song that comes up on the radio or, like, on my Spotify or something, like, I always enjoy it, and I'm always annoyed because it's so good, and it's like, you don't deserve it, but because you're so annoying.
They did blend together for me, and I liked every single song.
Mm-hmm.
The only sort of stand out near the end for me, I really enjoyed House of Cards.
That's one of the ones I really like too.
And the second to last song, which is
Jigsaw Falling into Place.
That one, yes. Also,
I was a really big fan of All I Need. I liked that one a lot.
Oh yeah. House of Cards also had a really weird music video that I enjoyed. It was like a crazy 3D digital head thing.
That sounds about right for Radiohead.
Yeah.
So another cool thing that they did while they were recording this, they went on tour without having all of the songs like finalized, and then did the tour with these songs. So they kind of had to like do riffs and fill in places where they hadn't solidified anything, but I think it gives a unique sound to it because you have some more definite experimental things that you wouldn't get with a traditional production, I think.
That is a crazy thing to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Typically, you would want to know what you're doing.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's Radiohead.
When you're Radiohead.
You can kind of do whatever you want.
Do we have any more thoughts on In Rainbows?
Not really.
I think if you have any reservations, my suggestion is go find your local college kid, ask him for the best weed he can find, sit down, get super high, and just listen to this album. I think that's the best way to enjoy it.
All right. You heard it here first. The Immortals are advocating drug use.
Yeah.
Hey, it's legal in like half the country. It's fine.
It's true.
Sure. All right. Hinge-wise, what would you give it, Lee?
Oh, I would give it 4.25. It's a good album.
I'll give it a 3.5. It's a good album. I just don't like Radiohead that much.
4. I enjoyed listening to it. I wasn't compelled to listen to another Radiohead album right away. So, 4.
Cool.
Now it's time for the food segment. Sarah, what do we have this week?
We have lemon curd. I don't know why
were you waiting for a clip
I don't know why.
for lemon curd?
Well, it's lemon curd. It's here.
I was wondering what lemon curd was.
So lemon curd is it's a spreadable lemon product. I mean, the ingredients, I'll read them to you because it really is all that's in there. Sugar, butter, lemon juice, egg yolk. That's basic, and then
I feel something was
pectin,
missing from
so
that
like
list.
pectin, which is I said lemon.
No, lemon is in the list?
Yes, lemon juice.
That's not lemon.
I'm sorry.
It's literally in the title.
Did you think the whole lemon with the rind and everything went into it?
I want there to be more lemon in my lemon curd.
Just eat it. Anyway, it's great. It's you've had it before. You'll notice you're like, oh, this lemony thing, because it's in a ton of desserts. It's sold, if you ever want to find it, it's in the jam aisle. It's like lemon jam, but it's way richer.
Is it like the stuff that like you'll see like either in donuts or on like Danishes or something like that?
A little bit. It's the thing it's in is in like French style lemon tarts.
Gotcha.
Those are basically just lemon curd. And it has an awesome texture. And it's delicious.
You say
Eat it
awesome
with your
texture.
face.
It looks like baby food?
It's much
I
more
imagine
like
it looks
butter.
like a curd.
Yeah, it's much more like butter. It's
It looks like a curd.
It's extremely rich.
Yes, it is.
But it's real good. I mean, it's basically just butter. Butter. It's basically butter and egg yolk with sugar and lemon in it. But it's tasty.
It's like when you have a lemon drop and like the outside of the drop is just like sugar on it.
And you're like,
that's
whoa!
what I'm feeling on my tongue right now.
Yeah. But it's tasty.
Oh, it's very tasty.
What it's really good with is pastry. Like if this plus pie crust.
That's
it
what
does
it
have
means,
a lot
yeah.
of that egg yolk richness in it, though. So if you don't like egg yolk, or if that flavor like bothers
Oh
you,
yeah, you
you'll
will
probably
not
get
like
bothered
this.
by this. Which sometimes it can put me off. Like a lot of like homemade eggnogs and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe just too much for me.
No, it is. It's a lot of that richness, but it's so good. It's a tasty food. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It's very rich. I don't think maybe it's more of this brand.
Oh no, I mean that's what lemon curd is. I mean, like you would never use more than like a little bit of it, right? Like it's Yeah,
we're not having a second bite of this.
No, but I mean not because it's not good.
Full.
It's just like, no, exactly. It's like, but yeah,
it
it's
does belong with a pastry, some sort of.
Yeah, I mean, it's
you need
served,
that bread element
it's
to
like
it.
traditionally served on like plain scones for tea, things like that. So,
What would you give it hinge-wise?
I love lemon curd. I'll give it a 4.3.
4.2.
4.
Nice.
Yep.
Here's some of your lowest reviews, Pedro.
I know.
You're just in a grumpy mood.
Fucking Zuckerberg. Nah, he's alright. He's a person.
We'll see if the song lifts you up at all. What's the song this week?
My Moon, My Man by Feist.
My moon, my man, so changeable and such a lovable land to me. My care, my code, leave on a high note. There's nowhere to go but on. Heart on my sleeve, not where we should be. The songs I don't key again. My moon's my face, what day in the face is the calendar page again. Take it slow, take it easy on me. She's so light on me, please. Take it slow, take it easy on me. She's so light on me, please.
My Moon, My Man is a song by Feist that came out in... Shit, I forgot the year. Apologies.
You started this
That's it. 2007. It's... I don't know what to say about this song. It's fine. It's fun. It starts out with, like, a good just bass, and she sings about things. I love her voice.
Yeah, she's a
Great
great
voice.
voice.
Yeah, she has a really great voice. I don't really know what the song's about.
I'm not
I've
sure
read the
either.
lyrics, and it's kind of hard to...
I was getting some of like the visual element of the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get the barber part.
Yeah.
I was doing so well, like my man, like shining upon you. Okay, I'm getting some elements here. Then the barber and the beggar.
Yeah, I definitely don't get the lyrics, but it's a cool sounding song.
Yeah, music video
It's
is
one
fun.
that like it comes up on my local radio station every once in a while, and like it never fails to get stuck in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I know. This and her other song is that's famous is
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. Tell me that you love me more.
Mhm.
Which also is the basis of. I think she has one of the best celebrity appearances on Sesame Street ever, which is based on that song. It is adorable. If you ever want to just like be happy, it's very good for that.
I had the misfortune of watching Justice League in the past few days.
Why?
And you act like that's something that someone did to you. That was a choice that you made for yourself.
Did society make you do this?
I listen to a podcast. It's more fun to listen to the movie that they're making fun of for 2 hours if I've seen it.
Okay.
Is it?
So you did this to yourself.
So Jason Momoa, who we know as Khal Drogo, plays Aquaman.
He's the best.
And he is clearly having a lot of fun as Aquaman, playing it as super muscular dude bro. And in a very key moment during the finale as they're all fighting, he's very happy with Cyborg for some reason. He just goes, "My man!" So I just kept singing the song, going like, "My moon, my man!" I'm just saying they do a duet together.
He was the best part of that movie.
You saw Justice League?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Bad movie, right?
Not great.
It's easier to watch
Wonder Woman
than...
was awesome in it, too.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Her and Aquaman are, like, tight.
But like Suicide Squad and like those are like so unbearable to watch because they're just like, oh look, Batman's branding people. Like this is just a disgusting world. Just like it's just a bad movie.
Oh, The Flash was fun too. I liked
We're
him.
not reviewing Justice League though.
Oh, sorry, Pedro, go back to the song.
It's a fine song.
Okay, Justice League. I will say, Peter mentioned the music video. I love the music video.
That was cute.
It's so cute.
I am a fan of the absurdity of moving sidewalks.
Yeah.
So to have an entire dance sequence set on that was awesome.
It is not, however, the best moving treadmill-like
That's
Walker
Okay
music
Go.
video, which is the OK Go music video.
Oh, yeah.
That one is the
great.
best for just like technical achievement of making it happen. This had more style to it. This
I'll give you
had
that.
and some more actual dancing. Whereas like OK Go is
We're all
staying
surviving.
up. But no, Feist is awesome. Really
like Feist.
catchy, clever song. Beautiful music video. This is good.
Not sure what it's about.
I like the richness of the chorus. That it's
Yeah.
that sort of a light sort of doo-doo-doo-doo, like twee kind of like verse structure, but then it bursts into like a slightly more sort of
It's really
full orchestral
dense
Yeah.
for like such a bouncy song. I don't know. It's good. It's great.
Yeah.
What do you give it hinge-wise?
A 4.4.
I like that. 4.4.
4.3.
4.
All right, that is My Mood, My Man
My
by Feist. Now it's time for the TV show segment, which is Fargo.
Oh, what a day. If that was me, I would have killed that man. If you don't stand up to the boss, the wife, you're just gonna get washed away.
You okay there, Bill? Wife made spaghetti for dinner.
Seemed ashamed to barf it up.
Gambling problem, I heard.
You don't say. I heard drugs.
I heard he slept with a 13.
For Pete's sake, Bob, don't spread rumors. No, it was gambling.
I'm glad my husband's dead. I'm gonna sing at his funeral. La 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 la.
It's a bit strange, huh?
You think this could be like an organized crime thing?
Give me the money. Oh, I'm sorry. Scrunion?
I didn't do nothing.
Fargo is a 2014 anthology show made by Noah Hawley for the channel FX. It is very loosely based off the Coen Brothers film Fargo, basically only in its first season, and even then it's very much a very, very loose adaptation of the movie, where you kind of see themes and imagery and certain character types play out. It's now run for 3 seasons. Each season has had a completely different cast. In fact, each 3 take place in different years. The first season being modern day, second season being in the 70s, referring to a massacre that was alluded to in the first season, and third season is set in like 2010. First season stars people like Billy Bob Thornton, Martin Freeman, Oliver Platt,
it's a crazy cast.
Glenn Howerton, Key and Peele, Colin
Key and Peele are
Hanks.
so good in this.
Season 2 is people like Gene Smart and Kieran Culkin and Patrick Wilson,
Kirsten
Dunst, Jesse Plemons, just to think of all the subplots. Season 3 has Ian McGregor as identical twins, Meredith Winstead, David Thewlis. Who else is in these? Ray Wise has an episode. Basically,
everybody.
Because they are limited things. There will not be a sequel to any of these things.
Right.
You can get big names, especially if they don't make it to the end.
Yeah, because it's really easy to be in one episode and then get horribly murdered.
So the what is kind of a similar thing to all 3 seasons is to watch people who think they're good people end up doing a bad thing, which has ripples throughout the entire community. It is a lot of the morality that is seen through a number of Coen Brothers movies, and it is done here with similar use of dramatic tension, excitement, and dark comedy. I had seen the first 2 seasons before this was drawn. I watched season 3, which is a step down, I think, of the excellence of the first 2 seasons, but it still had a number of great things, especially... Oh, Carrie Coon's also in that season.
Awesome.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who I think is very underrated. She's fantastic in that season. But Sarah, this was your first time watching the show.
Yeah, and I watched the whole first season, and I loved it. I haven't seen the movie in a while, and now I want to rewatch it because I feel like I'm not super qualified to comment on the differences and similarities. But it's a beautifully shot show. It's incredibly sort of dramatic. There's a shootout that happens in a raging blizzard where they can't.
Oh my god!
A lot of people can't see each other, and it's amazing. I mean, like I was like, this is. I mean, and I think it's one of these shows that's hit upon the great idea of prestige TV, miniseries, because the cast is just amazing, and you're seeing a bunch of actors who are so good, just having a ton of fun. I mean, Billy Bob Thornton is amazing in this. He's also having a blast. Like
I think he steals the.
Oh, he totally. I think he does. I think Martin Friedman is also like very, very good. But
what? So Lee, I didn't know you watched it. What all did you see of the show?
I've seen season 1. I watched season 1 as it aired. So my memory of it is not the clearest, but I remember a lot of those scenes like I watched it yesterday.
It's that sort of...
It leaves an impression.
Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton is this character. I mean, he's this kind of anonymous guy who kind of brings chaos. He's an agent of chaos, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is there to kind of reveal everyone's worst instincts. And he's violent and sophisticated. And I remember watching season 1. I was watching it with my parents. I kind of kept arguing during the season that Martin Freeman is just as evil as he is. Probably because like Bill Thornton knows who he is and is very gleeful about it, whereas Martin Freeman keeps insisting that he is a good, righteous person. His character is most modeled off of the William H. Macy character in Fargo, the movie. But Martin Freeman does a lot of horrendous, unforgivable things, but keeps insisting, no, it's okay, I should be let free, whereas Bill Thornton understands that he is an evil presence in this world.
Right, yeah.
Also, Bob Odenkirk season 1. I can't remember who else is in it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Alison Tolman, who was her debut. She was the lead.
Also amazing.
So freaking good.
Yeah, and I think when Key and Peele show up as a pair of cops halfway through the season, and you're just like, what is this show? Like, and they're hilarious, of course. It's really good.
The show's now had 2 of the 4 leads of Always Sunny being on the show. Glenn Howerton is drenched in orange makeup.
Oh my god, that's right.
Perpetual
gosh. There's also, the thing that's crazy about this show to me is how much is packed in a single episode. Like, it's a 12-episode season, I think.
10.
Or 10. Oh, jeez.
It's intense.
One episode, you'll be like, so much just happened. Like, there's like 3 different plot lines going on at the same time, all of which are advancing, but there'll be like multiple huge set piece moments in a single episode.
Also, Keith Carradine plays Alison Tolman's dad.
So good. Yeah.
Great role.
He's fantastic. And that's the only character that overlaps, because Patrick Wilson plays the younger version of him in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
Because they keep referring to this massacre of Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
Bad things happened there.
Yeah.
Season 3 really did kind of miss that tight structuring. It took about half the season for things to really start amping up, despite the really good performances. And it is a season that I would ultimately give like a B minus, as opposed to the A grades I would give the first 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. But it really is a fascinating show. It is apparently not over. Basically, Noah Hawley has kind of an open invitation with FX saying, once you have an idea for season 4, you're welcome to come back. And I think he's now said that like he has the idea, he started to work on it. Noah Hawley is also he took a break from Fargo to make the TV show Legion, which is bonkers.
Yeah, and I mean you can totally tell. It's like I don't know. They're both great shows. They're both bonkers.
It was when I was rewatching and getting back into Fargo that I see the elements of Legion.
Oh hell yeah!
Especially as characters will monologue about a parable that is a dark dissection of like anyone's soul.
It's really true.
Also, there's a guy, I forget the character's name, but he plays kind of the government official in Legion, especially in the pilot too. Will just kind of be very delicate, open his folder, take out his pen, and interrogate somebody. He basically plays the exact same role in Legion Season 3, except he's a tax nerd. Very curious that he just wants to have this guy in a suit and sit down very carefully and open a folder. That's Noah Hawley's thing, and by all means. But yeah, it's a show that is incredibly good, incredibly rich, uses its Coen Brothers homages in I think not a very distracting way.
Yeah.
It is done like the Miller's Crossing big forest scene is done, the flip a coin scene, No Control Men. Season 3 has very much, almost absurdly so, a Big Lebowski scene. But it uses all of these things to kind of create a tapestry. It doesn't feel like obnoxious Easter eggs. The scenes are still there for a dramatic reason, not just for, hey, it's this thing again.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this show, if you are a Coen Brother fan and if you have seen the movie Fargo, I would still recommend it because it's not a remake.
Not at all,
It's like an homage, and it's not like they tried to make the movie into a TV show. It is very much like the first episode, even if you are a Coen Brothers fan, it will still catch you off guard, even though the first episode is almost beat for beat the first act of Fargo.
And it's funny because like my parents watched the original movie and hated it, but ended up loving the show.
Interesting.
The one thing they did take from the movie, which I love, and it gives me a smile every episode, is they begin with the whole, this is a true story.
Yeah.
The names and events have changed to protect the survivors.
Yeah.
And survivors is the key word.
Yeah, a lot of people die.
A lot of people die in some horrible ways. I think I can say one character that dies. Glenn Howerton, I think, does the worst death.
Oh my god. It's
yeah.
rough.
But yeah, it uses violence in a way that really does make like you feel the violence, you feel the consequences, but also it knows how to have a bit of fun in that as well.
Yeah, and it's not. It's weird to say it's not gruesome because sometimes it is
very gruesome.
But it doesn't. It's not gruesome for groosome's sake. It doesn't dwell. Like the gore is not the point.
You're supposed to be affected by the
violence. But not. It's not a gross out kind of show. Or even
it's
like
not gore porn.
Or even like a Tarantino sort of glorification kind of thing. It's got a very different vibe than that.
The one time I think they did do that, but I think they pulled it off, was a scene in season 1 where Key and Peele are in the car, and then the camera shows in the building behind them, Billy Bob Thornton basically killed like 40 people. As you kind of just from the windows, you just kind of keep seeing him go through room to room and bodies hitting the floor.
Yeah.
That I think is a scene that is supposed to be more fun as opposed to the trauma of most of the other many deaths in the show. But
I have to say, Billy Bob Thornton does an amazing job in season 1. Like,
so
I was never convinced that he was a good actor, and then I saw season 1, and now I want him to do everything.
Yeah,
he was in a Coen Brothers film. One of their worst, unfortunately. The Man Who Wasn't There.
I haven't seen it.
They did a noir thing. It's in black and white. He's a barber. It's okay. Oh wait, Michael Stuhlbarg is also in season 3. I was remembering more people who are in this show. The guy who's the lead of Burn Notice is very good in season 2 of the part of a gangster's family. He's very cocky and not the best at what he's doing. But yeah, Fargo, check it out. You'll burn through it, I think, rather fast. Only 30 episodes of the whole series. Pedro, you would like this show.
Yeah.
It sounds like I would.
Yeah, this seems very much up your alley.
Yeah. I'll give it a shot.
Nice.
Old business.
Old business, new hinges. All right, now it's time for hinging it up now. I'll give it a 4.5.
4.2.
Am I rating it?
Yeah.
Have you watched any clips recently of it?
I mean, no.
I feel like she clearly remembers it well.
Again, this show sticks with you. Like, there are a lot of very... I don't even want to say, like, graphic as in violent, just, like, visually graphic scenes that stick with you.
Yeah.
Yep, let's hear your rating.
I'll give season 1 a 4.25.
I know, just me being neurotic. I'm actually taking mine down to 4.4 because I'm just remembering more of season 3 right now. But yeah, I hope this. I think the rumor is supposed to come back next year. Cool. So I'd love to watch Fargo season 4, and especially to see who they cast in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kate Walsh is also season 1. Okay, I'm remembering everybody now.
A lot of people, yeah.
She's very good in that. All right, so that is episode 122.
Cool.
What an episode we did.
We did an episode that was an episode.
Yeah.
It episoded really well.
So now we need a number for next week's episode.
Oh. Pedro, you pick. I'm bored.
No, do an elaborate math equation.
Yeah.
So I don't want this to be just you picking a number. I want you to really give us a random sense.
All right. Well, I don't know. What's the next episode? 123?
Yep.
What's 1 + 2 + 3?
6.
What's 1 less than 6?
5.
256.
What?
563.
Jesus Christ.
It's a 3-letter number. So we're going to add a 3 at the end.
Jesus Christ.
A 3-letter number, huh?
Yeah.
Also, it wasn't... No, it's fine. Yep, 563.
563 it
we
is.
organically came to that.
Mm-hmm. What? Okay, 563.
All right.
We don't hate you, Austin.
I hate me. All right.
Oh, no. Ooh, the food is good.
What's the food?
The food is nuja, which is a really delicious, crazy sausage that I love.
The movie is our first Francois Truffaut film, Day for Night, which is a very fun movie.
The album is Don't Stand Me Down by Dexy's Midnight Runners.
Didn't they do Come On Eileen?
Yep, they did. They had one hit in the US. I don't have high hopes for this album.
The song is Tainted Love by Soft Cell.
Yes.
And the TV show is the cult classic Strangers with Candy.
Oh, that's great.
If you have not seen Strangers with Candy, do you know it, Pedro?
No.
Amy Sedaris and Stephen Colbert.
Oh.
Stephen Colbert is a mean teacher. It's a whole show is a spoof of like very important sitcom episodes.
Interesting.
It's good, silly stuff that we'll discuss next week. Until then, you can rate us on iTunes, which is very helpful for people to find our show. And you could find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at The Immortals Pod. Lee runs that very well. You can go to theartofmoral.com. You can leave a comment on this or any other episode. Love to hear your thoughts. While there, you can check out the other podcasts, including Let's Take 5. Tomorrow we're doing part 2 of our Errol Morris 5 with his masterpiece, The Thin Blue Line, which is an incredible documentary. Also, Ad Absurdum is where 2 lawyers discuss real-life implications for pop culture. And this episode is about Escape from New York.
Yep.
But we mentioned Jurassic Park at the beginning. Listen to the Jurassic Park episode.
Yeah.
Listen to all the episodes.
Yeah.
Do things.
Yeah.
Anything else anyone wants to plug? Anything else?
Nope.
Cool. All right, so we'll be back next Thursday with all those fun stuff we're going to review. Until then, I'm Austin.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Lee.
I'm Pedro.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, especially Sara Rust and Adam Lord. Sara Rust, brilliant editor. This is going to be her last episode. She does a great job. And Adam Lord does the music. Edit that in somewhere good. Bye.
Brought you together. Ride ain't over yet.
My man.